everybody, and welcome again to the Online Stress Summit, the International Online Stress Summit for Stress Awareness Day 2018. And as you know, the theme for this year is, does high tech cause high stress? And I have an amazing expert here with me today. I'm so grateful to talk to Mr. Dr. Graeme Codrington. And I'm going to introduce Dr. Codrington because he is an expert on the future world of work, which is so linked to the topic of this year and the disruptive forces that are shaping it. I find that quite intriguing. And he's also a board advisor, presenter, and author. And I believe, Dr. Codrington, you have about 5 degrees, 5 best-selling books, you lecture at 5 international universities. You are the founder and international director of Tomorrow Today Global, which is a strategy consulting firm. So there's so much to tell, about you. But is there anything else you would like to add to the audience? Something about yourself, personal or professional, that you would like to add here?
Well, I suppose, thank you very much for the introduction. And I suppose if we're talking about stress today, maybe I should also add that I am married and have 3 teenage daughters.
Yes.
So,
are you implying that is the stress in your life?
Well, we'll talk about it, and maybe that's what helps me to de-stress. I love my time with family. From myself personally, I'm based in Johannesburg, but travel all around the world, spend a lot of time on airplanes and in different countries. And it's a real privilege to do the work that I do, which is to really see how the world is changing, what the future will look like, and help people to prepare for it.
Wow, thank you so much. I forgot to mention you are in South Africa, but you are a world global traveler. So let's talk about the first question about the theme of this year. What do you believe? Does high tech cause high stress?
It's a very interesting question, and since you asked me to be honest, I've been thinking about how to formulate an answer, and I'm going to say yes and no, and then explain what I mean. I think, of course, we cannot argue that technology has increased our experience of stress. And it's done that for a number of reasons. It's caused us to move faster. So when people send us messages and they want a response from us, they want it immediately. You send a WhatsApp message and you see that the other person has read it because you can see the 2 blue ticks. I think those 2 blue ticks are the curse of modern communication, because I can see you've read my message and now you've chosen to not respond immediately. And if I'm waiting for a response, I'm getting stressed. Why aren't you responding? I then start to think about all the reasons. It's not just because you don't have time. It's because you don't like me. It's because you're irritated by my request or whatever. And if I'm the sender of the message, I realize that now I've read the message, but I'm not responding. And so the speed, I think, is a potential cause of stress. I think the availability of information and people and connections is also causing stress. There's no not knowing anymore. Nobody can just say, well, I don't know. Your response is, well, why don't you look it up? Why don't you find it out? There isn't empty space in our world, because as soon as there's empty space, you'll typically pick up your phone and you'll check in somewhere. So you're always getting information, you're always connected, you're always accessible. So yes, technology can cause stress, but no, I don't think that technology is the cause of the stress. I think it is our choices about how we use technology that is causing us stress. And I don't think we've had enough conversations with each other as societies and families and teams and organizations and communities. And I don't think we've had enough conversations with ourselves in the mirror, just looking at ourselves personally to say, how are we going to use these tools? And for me, there's a danger. I understand what people are saying when they say technology causes stress. But the danger in phrasing it that way is I make the technology the problem, where I think I'm the problem. And technology is a tool that I don't think we're using well enough. So I don't want to mess with your question because I think it's the right question, but I think that the way we should answer it is the way we are using technology causing us stress or not? That for me is the question. It's about how we use technology, not about the technology itself. Does that help?
Yes, of course. And I find it very interesting because my work is also all about conscious self-care, which is I decide consciously what I want to do. Can you tell us something about how you do it in your life? How you behave around technology? Is it causing you personally stress?
So let me give you some examples of how I am making decisions around technology and stress. So, for example, a number of years ago, I realized that having phone conversations, speaking on the phone, was very stressful for me. And more so than normal. Some people say I don't like speaking on the phone, but I really didn't like the phone. I actually went so far as to go to a psychologist to help me to understand why did literally a phone ringing would cause me stress. And I don't need to go into all the details with you and people now. People don't know me well enough, it doesn't matter. But it related to issues to do with my parents and our family. And my father was often on call. And when the phone rang at home, it normally meant that he had to leave and go somewhere else. And so at a very simple level, there was a deep psychological connection. Now, obviously, you can begin to deal with that and engage with that. But what I decided to do instead was when all of the other means of communication emerged, from email to text messages to instant communication to what we're doing now with FaceTime and virtual conferencing, I decided that I'm not going to use my phone. You can't phone me. And I won't phone you. And some people have made this decision around the fax machine, for example. I don't have a fax machine and I don't send faxes. Sorry, I don't come from the 1990s. And I think some people find it very interesting that I've made the decision to just not use the phone. I have other friends who've made the decision to not use social media. Yeah. They don't have a Facebook account. They don't use Twitter. And I think that we need to be open to adjusting our lives around what forms of communication we are comfortable with. And I can tell you that some people are interested by the fact that I don't use the phone. But I don't think that it has ever damaged anything. If I say to people, if you want to speak to me and we can't do it face to face, then we make an arrangement. So I do have a phone and I do have a phone number and I will phone you, but I will only do it if it's pre-arranged, pre-booked. The other thing I do, and I think you might have experienced this actually when you contacted me the first time, when I go away on holiday, I put an out-of-office response on my email, which says the following. It says, thank you for sending your email to Graeme. I have received your email, but I will never read it. I am on holiday until whatever date. And when I get back on that date, I will delete all of the emails in my inbox. If your email is still important, please resend it on that day.
Okay. Wow.
And literally that's what I do. And again, I get gasps from people when I tell them. I say, and they say, but don't you miss important information? And in a fun way, I respond to them and I say, well, the good thing is I'll never know. If if somebody gets offended, some client gets offended, maybe, you know, you, when you sent an email to me to request me to be involved, and then you got offended and you say, well, I will never then work with Graeme again. The good news is I'll never know. So it doesn't stress me. But in fact, I actually have the opposite response from people. I have people contacting me saying, I wish I could do that. I wish I worked in a company that gave me permission to just switch off properly and have a proper break. Because most people these days go away on holiday and they still check into their emails, and the messages still ping on their phones, and their phones still ring and they still answer them. So a long answer to your question, but I think there are a few things that people can do. Where you have decided that you don't want to be disturbed by technology, then put the technology away. If you decide that meal times, you don't want to have technology and food together, then don't put your phone on the table next to you, face up in the restaurant. You're fooling yourself. Switch your phone. Don't even put your phone in your pocket where you can feel it buzzing. I've switched off the buzzing on my phone. My phone never buzzes. If I'm not looking at my phone, I don't know. And so do that. I'm not telling you what you should do. If you choose to check your emails while you're eating breakfast, fine. But at least be conscious. At least be deliberate about it. And what I do, my wife is more deliberate than I am about saying, no, we eat together once a day as the family, and it's normally at dinner in the evening, and no technology comes to the table. And my wife especially gets quite cross if somebody I quickly have to send a message. She says, no, you don't. I've chosen to switch off phones. Other people might choose to switch off social media. I choose to switch off completely when I'm on holiday. You might not have that option, but you can at least work that into your mindset. Switch off completely for the morning or for the evening or for one day in your holiday. But I think that the key I'm saying to you is that we have to be deliberate and conscious about switching technology off.
Yes.
And for me,
because I'm really grateful for the practical tips and the personal stories. It's interesting, but I so admire you for the work you do for the future of our future. Can you reflect also a bit in the future for us about, is it going to get worse? Is technology going to be more stressful? How do you see the future in that?
Well, I actually think that we're headed to a real crisis, because I think that we are just pushing and pushing and pushing at the moment. With automation coming, it's not actually going to make our lives better in the short term, because the whole point behind automation and the robots coming and so on is that our bosses want more productivity. They want more work per hour. And we have not in the workplace been prepared to acknowledge that there is a limit, that you can push people too far. So we push people until we break them. They have a heart attack, they get depression, they get sick. And it's a very, very stupid thing to do in workplace practice, because you're breaking a machine. We don't do that with our cars. Our cars have to go off to get a service once a year. And when you hear a slight clink, 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 clink noise in your car, you don't keep driving it. You realize that this is a signal something's going wrong. But with the human beings in our system, we don't at all listen to the signals, and we see it as a sign of weakness when there is a little clink, clink, clink in ourselves or in somebody else. And then we either medicate it or we just push through and ignore it. And then literally people break. So for me, at the moment, I fear for people that in the next few years, it's going to get worse. That when we see that the machines can do what they do without taking a break, we think we're going to have to compete with the machines. And when emails come 24/7, when messages come 24/7, we think it's our responsibility to respond. So we are now slaves to our technology. And I think that's a huge danger. And what we really need in the future is we're going to break a lot of people, sadly, before we fix it. But I think that once we realize we've created it, like if there was a massive epidemic around the world, like we've had with some, epidemic diseases, we shut down the airports, we send in the army, we create a massive international emergency. And I think there's an international emergency around stress and overwork. Yeah. And what's going to happen is, as we see people breaking down, I think we will begin to respond. And ideally, if I can project into the future, the ideal response is going to be that senior leaders lead by example. That you know when to switch off. You know how many hours a day is peak productivity. And it's not 16 and it's not 20. It's closer to 8 or 10 is peak productivity. And we begin to reward people for celebrating the fact that they are not stressed. Today we reward people who are the most stressed, and we congratulate people who stay till 10 o'clock at night. Yeah. We should actually punish those people and celebrate the people who leave at 4 in the afternoon and take a weekend and switch off over their holidays. And it's only going to happen when senior leaders do it, when senior leaders take holidays and switch off, when senior leaders refuse to send and receive emails after 6 o'clock at night. So again, I've got a yes and no answer for you. As I look at the future with technology and stress, I see technology causing some problems and then hopefully being also part of our solution. Apple and Google have just released updates to their software that now record how many hours you spend. And I think people are going to be surprised when they see those weekly reports coming on their phones. I think we're going to have to...
Can I add to that? Just a little add, because you
Sure,
said
sure.
I'm so intrigued. I was on my way back from Spain with my mother, and in the airplane, I read an article with figures, and there was a study in Australia in one of the universities that on average, Graeme, we touch our smartphone 2,500 times a day. And
I can believe that.
And it was such a number that I thought, what are we doing? How do you say? It's all about choices. It's all about responsibility. It's all about behavior. And I'm so grateful you give the example of our the leaders of companies and all that, giving the example. And the same, it's like you giving the example in your family to do exactly the same, so that your teenage daughters understand that it is okay to do that. That should actually be the norm.
Exactly. But now let me say the other side of the equation, where I think we'll see technology causing more stress. Technology can also relieve stress. And this is where we mustn't just throw technology out the window. I've been talking about switching off completely, but now let me tell you the other side of the story. So when I'm on holiday and I'm refusing to even look at my emails, I'm also reading books, but I read all my books in my phone. I do. You can see a little library to the side here. But really, I've stopped buying physical books, and the last 500 books I've bought are in here. Some of them are audio books. And I listen to lots of podcasts. I'll probably listen to all the other speakers in this summit on my phone while I'm running. I listen to podcasts and online. I do a lot of Udemy, Coursera, Khan Academy courses. That's all in here. I communicate with my daughter, my oldest daughter, who's studying at varsity a few hundred miles away. I communicate with her almost every day via video chat. What else? I listen to music. I watch movies. All of it is now in here. So I'm not saying that a good holiday is to have no technology. In fact, it's absolutely essential for me that I only go to hotels with high-speed Wi-Fi, unlimited bandwidth. And you will often, if you follow me on Facebook, you'll see me moaning, shaming hotels and conference venues that have bad technology. But the point is, so that's the point I'm making. The technology is not the thing that's stressing me. It is how I choose to use the technology. I even have a sleeping app that plays different sounds in the background and even measures my sleep so that I can be more scientific about getting better sleep, more scientific about the exercise I do, about the food I eat. I've just the other day was updating using an app called 8Fit. I might as well give them a little bit of promotion because they've just updated their app. And I've just come into the app now, and they are giving me, here we go, I need to hit the start date, and so I want to start today, and they are giving me a meal plan for what I'm supposed to be eating at each meal, and I'm following that. So it's not the technology that's stressing us, it's how we choose to use the technology. And as soon as you feel that you are a slave to your technology, you will be stressed. So I think that the future of work is going to be a rearrangement of the terms and conditions of our employment, which involves us as employees being a little bit more demanding that we can switch off. You know what? If I want to take half an hour at 10 o'clock in the morning and play a game on my phone, that you should trust me that that's what I need in order to be more productive. And companies that block their people from using Facebook and block, I think you're not trusting your people, and I think you're causing more stress than you're saving, and you're doing the opposite of what you plan. So employees need to push a little bit more. Employers, especially bosses, need to be better at how they use technology, so they give a better example. And then all of us together need to realize, I think technology usage is an addiction. And I think that some of us have a bad habit, have bad addictions. And just like you might look at yourself one day and say, sure, I'm not exercising enough, or wow, I'm drinking too much alcohol, or sure, I'm eating the wrong types of foods. And then we begin to make a change to change our lifestyles. Some of us will go cold turkey. We'll just, like I did one day, stop drinking caffeine, stop sugar. You can go cold turkey. And so some people will say, I'm going off of Facebook, or I'm stopping using the phone. Other people will go slowly and change their habits. And you know what? We need to just get better at supporting each other, being prepared to speak to other people about this, being prepared to have some accountability about it. And then technology can become a tool. And we can speak about technology as a tool to help us de-stress, declutter, live better lives. But right now, sadly, I see too many of us are enslaved and are going to be hurt.
Thank you so much. Really, Graeme. There's a lot of practical tips in here too, so I'm very grateful for that. If we're going to slowly, wrap up, if you would have to, let's say one quote, one sacred thing that is important to you, something maybe that you share with your daughters, or you in your work with your, when you give a conference or on stage, is there one philosophy thing or something that you live by that you could share with us? I know it's not
yes. I don't have sort of mantras or things like that, but maybe there are two things. The first one, which if there was anything that would sort of be a defining motto for me in life, it's a quote by Maya Angelou, which says, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And I kind of live life like that, saying I like to believe the best in everybody, but we have to accept that people are who they are. And once we understand who they are, we have to trust our understanding, whether they're good or bad, whether they plan to help us or hurt us. Once somebody shows you who they are, believe them. So that's the actual answer to your question. I think, though, in the context of our conversation about technology and stress and life, I think I would encourage people, and I think I encourage my daughters to be deliberate in your choices. Nobody should ever say, I had no choice. What could I do? About it. So just a simple example, a number of people speak to me about the future of work. It is what I do, but they make it personal. I'm really not a good coach, but some of my friends kind of come to me and say, what are you seeing in the future of work? I typically point them to my websites online, and maybe I can tell people about this as well. We have something called the Future of Work Academy. So you can just search for that, thefutureofworkacademy.com. And there we help people, giving them the skills that they need to be successful in the future of work. But my friends come to me and say, look, I'm thinking of changing my job. What personal advice can you give me? What's not on your website? And my constant advice to them is to say, if you are being headhunted, so, they might come and say, look, I've had this offer. What do you think? If somebody really is chasing you and saying, I want you to come and work for me, why don't you say to them, let's agree on the job description. Let's agree on what you want me to deliver. And then let's also agree that I only have to give you 4 days of my week to do that. So I say to them, there's no downside in asking for this. If the boss looks at you, they will look at you and say, whoa, that's a bit of an unexpected demand. And you say, no, it's not a demand. It's simply this. I will work very hard for you for 4 days. I will put in extra effort. I promise you I'm good. That's why you're trying to employ me. I will use technology to accelerate my productivity. I will do everything I can, but I want 3 days weekend, not 2. And you know what? Half of the people I've suggested do that, the company says, they have to think about, that'll make an exception in HR. And then they come back and they say, okay, we'll do it. And I say to my friends, I've just given you 5 years of Christmas presents. Why not? Why not ask for that? Why not be deliberate? Why not say to your boss, this is how I think I can be the best human being. I need to be in bed by 9 o'clock. I need to not be, I need to only arrive at 10 o'clock. If you get me before 10 o'clock in the morning, you're getting a bad version of me. Why not go and speak to your boss, be deliberate about what you do? And of course, if you are the boss, why not ask your team what will help them to be the best person they can be? And for me, it's not so much about getting rid of stress. It's about making stress your partner, having the good kind of stress, the adrenaline, the exciting stuff, where the stress is leading us to better productivity rather than just exhaustion all of the time. So for me, the mantra to live by, and what I help my daughters to try and do, is know who you are, ask for what you want, and be deliberate about your choices.
Thank you so much, Graeme, because it's all about, in a lot of work that I do, it's all about expressing your needs and your feelings, and we're not conditioned to do that enough, so thank you for that. I really appreciate talking to you. We could go on and on, but we need to say to people, you will have all access to Graeme's website, to whatever he talked about. Everything will be there. You can rewatch all the interviews that are going to be on air. So I would like to thank Mr. Dr. Graeme Codrington for this interview. Thank you so much for all the practical advice. I really appreciate that. And I'm saying goodbye for now, and see you soon. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.